Yeah, one thing that I really appreciate about Necromancy, right, is that it's very accessible in terms of you don't need to buy a bunch of gear and a bunch of abilities, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't need to a lot of rotations
Yeah.
kind of rely on you getting
The Zuck
like
cape.
well, not necessarily the Zuck cape, but like other abilities. Like I was doing Carapac back in the day with like what was it, like ranged or magic, I think. And I think somebody told me, oh, you need to get like greater concentrated blast because without that you're doing worthless damage, right? Like yeah, that was
Probably
you.
me.
Yes. Like things like that, you're kind of forced to go and do a bunch of upfront investments to even get to the point where you can look into doing some high level PVM. Necromancy, sort of. You can do it, but like you will never get to a point where you're close to efficient and all that. Necromancy is different. Like you can get all of it yourself, right?
With that said, you do have to do a little bit. Like you got to earn that fire cape to get that tier 90 weapon unlock. Like
yes,
you know, you got to do some God Wars too,
right?
Right, you do it yourself. It's not.
It's totally and the onboarding for it, the damage you put out with the style, and the like, it's all very reasonable. It's such an like we talked about this too. It's a good onboarding to the PVM side of the game.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That step from Jad to Kiln to Zuck and everything in between, the God Wars, the QBD, so on and so forth. That's all done masterfully with Necromancy.
And you could do it purely with Necromancy, right? Like that's the nice thing.
Yes.
Like it's all designed.
I did it purely with. I did not have any gear for any other style.
Yeah,
when I did
so like
this.
that's the nice thing, right? Like you can be completely self-sufficient in this, like all of it. Like you have to even do these bosses, right? Like it forces you to go and do the bosses to get the high level gear.
In Necromancy, you have to do Necromancy
with Necromancy, like and that to me is a huge boon to the skill, right? Like that's I went and did next. Well, I ran around not dying. Well, Shane did next, let's be honest. But like I went to next for the first time. I'm gonna have to do the ambassador for the first time in not story mode. You know, things like that. It's going to encourage. It's gonna make me do Araxor, which I've never done before. Right? It's gonna make me do them. I'm gonna be able to do them because Necromancy is like it's sort of designed that it's good enough for me to do it with that level of gear, with that level of experience.
Next, I think is a little challenging if you're not used to it. And the ambassador, I had to do trio for the ambassador. I didn't even try solo. I think I probably could have, but that's a level of skill.
We pulled off.
True the journey, you sort of
the
game forces you to build confidence. It's telling you at this stage with the level of gear you have, without buying anything new, you can do it, and you go and do it. And actually, it's not so bad.
And I want to just say how big and important this is, that if there's going to be one success story of Necromancy we're going to focus on, I want it to be this one.
Yeah. Killy tasks were a masterstroke. Like, and again, I did this, and when I did it with a Dragon Rider amulet, and I had nothing. I literally, the gear that I was wearing, my death cost, when I died, I think I had a death to Nex or something. At some point I screwed up. I think I died to an ice prison. My death cost me 3K. That's how cheap my gear was. Like, and that's it. That's what you need. That's
it's
crazy.
Even at this point now, my death costs were only approaching 60 odd K. I haven't looked at what they are since I got the tier 95 gear, but with the tier 90 stuff, it's only like 60K. So
you're not looking at
The only downside I see of this particular thing is it's a little bit too little or too late, because I think the large portion of the RuneScape audience doesn't need this, right?
We don't need the onboarding to PVM. But for people that did, it's a good, it's a good change in that direction where it's an encouragement. It's the I've been meaning to do it forever. And it's the same idea as the quest, right? They said that the number of people that were killing the Necromancy bosses, was more than they would expect, given it was just a newly released boss. Like Zamorak has so few kills, but because they did the questing on it, they said that because they did these quests that made you kill them in story mode, you said, oh yeah, I did the mechanics for that. Like, I know it's going to be harder, but I can do it. Yeah. I've seen it. It like removes so much of that barrier to have been forced to go and do one kill.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
to say, hey, it's not as scary.
And that's the success story of Necromancy.